Voices in the static. The radio tower incident. This mysterious event involves unexplained sounds heard amidst radio interference. It centers around a peculiar occurrence at a broadcast facility. Radio technician Carlos Mendez climbed a remote broadcast tower for routine maintenance. He reported hearing voices through his headset, discussing him in present tense. His panicked communications with the base station described figures moving on the ground below. This was impossible given the tower's isolated location. A 47-minute recording of his final transmission contains unexplained audio anomalies. It includes his description of something climbing up without using the ladder. Search teams found only his equipment, still running. The microphone was recording nothing but wind. The harsh buzz of Carlos Mendez's alarm clock pierced the pre-dawn darkness. It echoed through his small apartment. Carlos reached out and silenced it with a practiced motion. He then lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling. Today was the day. Another challenging assignment awaited him.
Another tower, another climb. Just like any other day, right?
Carlos muttered to himself, his voice a mix of determination and anxiety. He swung his legs over the side of the bed. His feet touched the cold floor, sending a shiver up his spine. The chill reminded him of a memory he'd rather forget. Carlos moved through his morning routine. His eyes lingered on a framed photo on his dresser. A young woman smiled back at him from the photo. She had the same dark eyes as Carlos. Her arm was wrapped around a younger version of himself. Carlos quickly looked away from the photo. A feeling of guilt consumed him.
I'm sorry, Anna. I'll do better this time. I promise.
Carlos's voice was barely a whisper. He carefully packed his gear. Each piece of equipment was checked and double-checked. His movements showed an extreme focus on detail. This revealed his perfectionism in preparing for the task ahead. An hour had passed. Carlos now stood outside his apartment building. The sky was beginning to show the first signs of daybreak. He paused to take a deep breath. Carlos was mentally preparing himself for the journey that lay ahead. The early morning air filled his lungs as he gathered his courage, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. Carlos's truck traveled out of the city. The journey led into mountainous terrain. The world around him grew quieter and more imposing. Details of the radio tower assignment played in his mind. He repeated them like a mantra of professionalism. This mental exercise kept his unease at bay.
Just a routine maintenance check. Get in, do the job, get out. Nothing to it.
The miles stretched on as Carlos drove. Civilization fell away behind him. Carlos felt uneasy about this assignment. It seemed different from others. Silence surrounded him in the wilderness. The quiet pressed in on Carlos. Only his truck's engine broke the stillness. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Finally, Carlos caught his first glimpse of the radio tower. It loomed in the distance, a lone structure. The tower reached towards the clouds. Something about its outline sent a chill down Carlos's spine. The solitary shape stood out against the sky, unsettling him deeply.
Get it together, Mendez. It's just another tower.
Carlos spoke the words, but he knew he was trying to convince himself. He parked his truck at the base of the tower. As he stepped out into the unsettling quiet, an uneasy feeling crept over him. Carlos couldn't shake the sensation that he was being watched. Carlos squared his shoulders and hefted his gear. He approached the towering metal structure. With each step, the tower seemed to loom larger. It cast a long shadow across the clearing. As Carlos reached the base, a gust of wind whipped around him. The wind carried what sounded almost like a whisper.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Carlos called out into the vast surroundings. His voice was lost in the emptiness. Only silence answered him. An uneasy feeling grew in the pit of his stomach. With a deep breath, he began his ascent. He was unaware of the horrors that awaited him above. The gravel crunched under Carlos's boots. He approached the base of the towering radio structure. An eerie silence blanketed the area. It was broken only by the occasional whisper of wind. The wind moved through the metal framework. The imposing tower stretched skyward. Its peak was lost in a shroud of mist.
This is Carlos Mendez, checking in at the base of Tower 7, ready to begin ascent.
Copy that, Carlos. This is Maria at base control. We've got you on the radar. How are conditions down there?
Unusually quiet. No wildlife, barely any wind. It's unsettling.
Carlos looked around suspiciously. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the perimeter. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. He felt uneasy but couldn't identify why.
Understood. That's not uncommon for this area. Just focus on your climb and stay in regular contact.
Roger that. Beginning ascent now.
Carlos gripped the first rung of the ladder. A chill ran down his spine. He shook off the sensation. Carlos thought the feeling came from the cool mountain air. Halfway up the first section, Carlos paused. The air around him seemed to thicken. It pressed against his skin like an invisible fog. This strange atmosphere enveloped him, making each breath feel heavy and deliberate.
Maria, are you getting any unusual atmospheric readings?
Negative, Carlos. All readings are normal. Is something wrong?
No, it's probably nothing. Just feels different up here.
Suddenly, a faint whisper echoed in Carlos's ear. The sound was like his sister's voice. He jerked his head around in surprise. Carlos nearly lost his grip on the ladder.
What the...
Carlos, everything okay?
Carlos took a deep breath. He forced himself to remain calm. His logical mind raced. He tried to rationalize the strange occurrence.
Yeah, sorry. Just thought I heard something. Must be the wind playing tricks on me.
All right. Take it slow if you need to. We've got all day for this inspection.
Carlos nodded to himself and resumed his climb. He quietly scolded himself for letting his imagination run wild. As he ascended further, he couldn't dismiss an uneasy sense. Something seemed to be watching him from the swirling mists above. Carlos Mendez wiped the sweat from his brow. He had reached the halfway point of the tall radio tower. The metal structure made unsettling noises in the wind. Its huge size made Carlos look small against the empty landscape. He unclipped his safety harness and took a moment to rest. Carlos caught his breath and looked over his equipment.
All right, let's see what we've got here.
Carlos pulled out his diagnostic tool. He frowned as the device emitted an unusual pattern of beeps. Carlos tapped the tool against his palm. However, the inconsistent behavior continued.
That's odd. These readings don't make any sense.
He reached for his radio. Carlos intended to contact Maria at the base station. Suddenly, a loud static burst out from the device. Carlos winced and quickly adjusted the volume.
What the hell?
Carlos fiddled with the radio settings. The static began to shift and change. At first, it was hard to notice. A pattern emerged in the background noise. It faintly caught his attention. Then, unmistakably, he heard it. It was a whisper.
No, it can't be.
Carlos's blood ran cold. The voice in the static was hauntingly familiar. It sounded just like his sister, Anna. His logical mind reeled. He searched for an explanation, trying to make sense of what he had heard.
Get it together, Mendez. It's just interference. There's got to be a rational explanation for this.
He tried to convince himself, but the whispers grew more insistent. They weaved through the static. It was like ghostly fingers reaching for him.
This isn't real. It's not happening.
Carlos's hands were shaking. He fumbled with the radio nervously. Desperately, he tried to make contact. His goal was to reach the base station. The situation seemed urgent, as Carlos struggled to operate the device.
Maria? Maria, do you copy? I'm experiencing some unusual phenomena up here.
Carlos? Your signal's breaking up. What's going on?
I'm getting some strange readings. There's something wrong with the radio. I'm hearing voices.
Voices? What do you mean? The connection must be bad. Can you describe the technical issues?
Carlos hesitated, torn between skepticism and his senses. The evidence before him was undeniable. He glanced up at the tower, stretching endlessly above. A sense of dread settled in his stomach.
I'm not sure how to explain it. Something's not right here, Maria. It's as if the tower itself is alive. The situation feels strange and unsettling. I can't quite put my finger on what's wrong, but there's an eerie sense that this building has a life of its own.
Alive? Carlos, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe you should come down. We can troubleshoot from here.
As Maria spoke, whispers in the static grew louder. The whispers drowned out her voice. Carlos felt a chill run down his spine. He realized the voices were urging him to do the opposite. They were telling him to climb higher.
I can't come down yet. I need to figure out what's causing this.
Carlos, wait.
The radio went dead. Carlos was left alone with whispers in the looming tower. He looked up, his heart pounding. Carlos contemplated his next move. Every logical instinct screamed at him to retreat. Yet, he felt a mysterious urge to climb higher. The unknown beckoned him to ascend further.
What am I doing?
Carlos reattached his safety harness with trembling hands. He began to climb, his ascent challenged by the rising wind. The wind carried a faint echo of his sister's laughter. The boundary between memory and reality started to blur. Carlos found himself questioning everything he knew. His understanding of the world and himself was shaken. Night fell over the imposing radio tower. Carlos Mendez found himself at the mid-levels. The metal structure creaked ominously in the growing darkness. His headlamp beam cut through the gloom. It cast long shadows that seemed to move unnaturally. The eerie atmosphere surrounded Carlos as he continued his ascent.
This is Carlos, checking in from level 47. Everything's secure, but something feels off up here.
Copy that, Carlos. What do you mean by off? Can you be more specific?
I'm not sure, Maria. The shadows, they're moving, not like they should.
Carlos's eyes darted to the edge of his vision. There, impossible shapes seemed to dance and flicker. He blinked hard, trying to clear his sight.
Moving shadows, Carlos? It's probably just the wind. The wind might be changing how your light looks. Remember, you're at a high altitude. This can cause unexpected effects on lighting.
No, it's not that. It's like they're alive. God, I sound crazy, don't I?
As Carlos spoke, a vivid memory flashed before his eyes. He saw his sister Anna, her face twisted with fear. She was slipping from his grasp during a fateful hiking trip. This happened years ago, but the memory remained clear.
Anna! No!
Carlos? What's happening? Who's Anna?
Carlos shook his head. He was trying to push away the disturbing memory. His heart raced. He realized how real the flashback had felt.
I'm okay. Anna was my sister. She died in an accident years ago. I thought I saw something, but never mind. It's nothing.
Carlos, maybe you should take a break. The altitude and isolation can play tricks on your mind.
As Maria spoke, a shadow appeared. It began to move away from the tower's structure. The shadow grew impossibly large behind Carlos.
Maria, something's here. Something's watching me. I can feel it.
Carlos, listen to me. There's nothing up there except you and the equipment. You're letting your imagination run wild.
Carlos turned slowly, his flashlight beam trembling. The light swept across the platform in the darkness. For a split second, he thought he saw glowing eyes, but they vanished as quickly as they had appeared.
I know what I saw, Maria. This isn't my imagination. Something's not right with this tower.
Listen to me, Carlos. You're a professional. You've done this 100 times. Focus on your job. Try to ignore these distractions.
Carlos took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He looked down at his hands. To his shock, they were covered in blood. It was Anna's blood. He blinked, and the illusion vanished. The experience left Carlos deeply disturbed.
You're right. I'm a professional. I can do this. I have to do this.
Carlos braced himself to continue his climb. The shadows around him seemed to throb with evil energy. A mysterious presence sensed his fear and guilt. It prepared to tighten its grip on the unsuspecting technician. The wind howled with unusual intensity. Carlos clung to the tower's metal frame. Dark clouds churned above in the sky. Their ominous presence matched the growing dread in Carlos's gut. He had to reach the next maintenance platform quickly. Time was running out.
Come on. Just a little further.
Carlos's fingers were numb from the biting cold. He fumbled with the safety harness. The storm's intensity seemed to defy all weather patterns. It had appeared out of nowhere just minutes ago.
Jesus Christ.
The tower wobbled dangerously. It moved far more than it should have. Carlos's heart raced as he reached for safety. He finally managed to clip onto the platform's rail. Carlos stumbled onto the grated surface. He was gasping for breath.
Maria, do you copy? This storm appeared suddenly. I need to know if it might end soon.
Carlos, are you there? Your signal is breaking up. Did you mention a storm? Our radar doesn't show any severe weather patterns in your area.
What? That's impossible. I'm in the middle of a full-blown tempest here.
Carlos squinted through the driving rain. He tried to see clearly the base of the tower. His blood ran cold as he realized something unsettling. He could no longer see the ground below. It seemed as if the tower now stood suspended in midair. The structure was surrounded by an endless sea of churning clouds.
Maria, something's very wrong up here. The tower doesn't look right. I can't see the ground anymore.
Carlos, you're not making any sense. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should come down and we can.
The radio crackled and went dead. Carlos was alone, trapped in a dangerous situation of metal and weather. He pressed his back against the central column. Carlos tried to steady his breathing. That's when he noticed something strange. The maintenance hatch was missing. It should have led to the interior ladder. Instead, there was only a smooth, featureless surface.
This isn't possible. This isn't real. Get it together, Carlos.
He closed his eyes, trying to make the hallucination disappear. When he opened them, the hatch had reappeared. Now it was on the opposite side of the platform. This defied all logic and memory. The tower seemed to flex and bend. Its rigid structure suddenly became fluid and alive. Carlos felt a presence around him. An evil consciousness filled the very air. The atmosphere was thick with a sinister energy that Carlos could almost touch.
Carlos, why do you resist? Embrace the chaos. Let go of your fears.
The voice was everywhere and nowhere. It seemed to come from the tower itself. Carlos tried to block out the sound. He pressed his hands to his ears, but it did nothing to stop the otherworldly whisper.
No, this isn't real. It can't be real.
The platform beneath Carlos's feet began to twist and warp. This forced Carlos to confront a terrifying possibility. He wondered, could this actually be happening?
Your sister understood, Carlos. In her final moments, she saw the truth. Don't you want to understand too?
Leave Anna out of this. She has nothing to do with... Wait, how do you know about her?
Carlos's mind reeled in shock. The entity knew his deepest pain. This knowledge shattered Carlos's remaining skepticism. It was clear this was no hallucination. Rain lashed at his face violently. The tower twisted in unnatural ways. Carlos realized he was trapped. He faced a nightmare beyond his worst fears, frighteningly real and perilous.
What are you? What do you want from me?
The storm's fury intensified, as if responding to Carlos's defiance. He clung desperately to the twisting metal. His rational mind struggled to process the impossible reality before him. Suspended between earth and sky, Carlos faced a new truth. His fight for survival and sanity had only just begun. Before we continue, let's take a moment to reflect. What are your thoughts on this story? What would you like to hear next? Please share your ideas in the comments. Carlos's eyes snapped open, his heart racing. He found himself in a distorted reality. The familiar surroundings of the radio tower had changed. It was now a maze of steel and darkness. Disoriented and frightened, Carlos fumbled for his radio. He was desperate for a connection to the outside world.
Maria? Maria, are you there? Something's very wrong up here.
Carlos, I can barely hear you. What's happening?
The tower has changed drastically. Nothing about it looks right anymore. I'm struggling to describe what I'm seeing. It's as if I'm looking through a carnival mirror. But this distorted view is actually real.
Carlos's voice trembled as he spoke. His eyes darted around the distorted environment. Staircases bent in unnatural ways. Corridors seemed to stretch endlessly. They abruptly ended in solid walls.
Carlos, calm down. You're not making sense. Are you sure you're fully awake?
I'm awake, Maria. This isn't a dream. It's as if the tower is alive. The tower keeps changing. I don't know how to get back. I can't find where I was before.
As Carlos spoke, he noticed something unusual. Strange symbols were etched into the twisted metal surfaces. These symbols seemed to pulse with an eerie light. The glow gave off an otherworldly feeling.
There are markings here. Symbols I've never seen before. They look old, but they're glowing.
Symbols? Carlos, maybe you should come down. This altitude might be affecting you more than we thought.
No, I can't leave. I need to figure this out. Something's happening here, Maria. It's beyond explanation.
As Carlos spoke, he felt a chill run down his spine. The air around him seemed to thicken. For a moment, he thought he saw something unusual. There was a movement in the shadows nearby.
Carlos, listen to me. I'm worried about you. Maybe we should call for an evac.
Wait, I think I see something. Or someone.
In the distance, a figure appeared briefly. The figure vanished around a corner. It moved with a strange, smooth movement. This made Carlos's skin crawl with unease.
Carlos? Carlos, what's going on?
I have to go, Maria. I need to follow, to understand.
No, wait, don't!
Carlos switched off his radio. His heart was pounding in his chest. He took a cautious step forward. The structure around him seemed to shift and breathe, as if alive. Carlos was no longer just a technician on a routine job. He had become an explorer in a strange and frightening place. In this new realm, the laws of reality no longer applied.
Whispering to himself, what have I gotten myself into?
Carlos ventured deeper into the heart of the distorted tower. He was unaware of the evil presence watching his every move. This sinister entity waited to exploit Carlos's deepest fears and regrets. Carlos's footsteps echoed through the metal stairwell. He ascended to the next floor of the tower. As he pushed open the heavy door, he froze. His breath caught in his throat. The familiar scent of his mother's cooking wafted through the air. Before him stretched an impossible sight. It was his childhood home's living room.
This can't be real.
Carlos's hand trembled as he reached out. He touched the worn fabric of his family's old couch. The texture was exactly as he remembered it. There was a small tear near the armrest. His sister Anna had once caught her bracelet there.
Anna.
His voice was barely a whisper. It was thick with emotion. As if summoned by his thoughts, a giggle echoed. It came from down the hallway. This was a sound he hadn't heard in years. The faint laughter broke the silence, stirring long-forgotten memories. The unexpected noise seemed to transport him back in time, filling the air with a mixture of surprise and nostalgia.
Carlos, come play with me.
No, this isn't happening. You're not here. You can't be.
Carlos stumbled backward, his back hitting the wall. He squeezed his eyes shut, willing the illusion to disappear. When he opened them again, the room remained unchanged. Now, family photos on the wall seemed to flicker. The faces within the photos distorted into disturbing expressions.
Get it together, Carlos. This isn't real. It's the tower. It has to be.
He fumbled for his radio. He was desperate to contact Maria. Maria was at the base station. His frantic search for the device reflected his urgent need to communicate with her at their remote headquarters.
Maria, are you there? Something is very wrong up here. I'm seeing my old home. This seems impossible. The situation is alarming and confusing.
Carlos, can you hear me? Your signal is breaking up. Did you say you're seeing your old home? That doesn't make any sense.
I know it doesn't make sense. But it's here, Maria. The couch and photos are all around. Even the smell is familiar. I can smell my mom's cooking.
Carlos, listen to me. Whatever you're experiencing is not real. You need to focus on the task at hand. Remember your training.
Maria's voice came through the radio. Carlos felt a chill run down his spine. The room seemed to throb around him. He was certain the walls were closing in.
Carlos, why didn't you save me? You promised you'd always protect me.
Anna, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Carlos's composure crumbled. He sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. The guilt he had carried for years bubbled to the surface. It threatened to overwhelm him. The long-buried emotions finally broke free, leaving Carlos vulnerable and exposed.
Yes, Carlos, feel it. Remember, you failed her, just as you'll fail again.
The entity's voice slithered through Carlos's mind. It was a sinister whisper. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once.
No, this isn't real. Anna, you're not here. And you...
Carlos stood up shakily. His fists were clenched. They remained at his sides. The man's unsteady rise and tense posture conveyed a mix of determination and nervousness.
You're not going to break me. I won't let you use her against me.
Carlos took a deep breath and forced himself to walk forward. He pushed through the illusion of his childhood home. Each step felt like wading through thick mud. Despite the difficulty, Carlos pressed on. He was determined to uncover the truth behind the tower's dark manipulations.
Run all you want, Carlos. You can't escape your past or your future.
Carlos reached for the door at the end of the hallway. He steeled himself for whatever terrifying situation awaited him. On the other side, Carlos knew his grip on reality was growing weaker. He braced for the frightening scene he might encounter, unsure of what was truly real anymore. Carlos's footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridors of the tower. He pushed open the door to an old control room. The musty air hit him like a wall. It carried the scent of decay and forgotten secrets.
What is this place? It looks like it hasn't been touched in years.
His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. It revealed dusty control panels and shelves. The shelves were lined with old equipment. In the corner, an old-style tape machine stood out. The vintage recording device immediately grabbed his attention.
Logging tapes? Maybe these can shed some light on what's been happening here.
Day 37 at the tower. The noises are getting worse. I don't think I'm alone up here anymore.
Carlos's brow furrowed. He listened intently. His skepticism began to waver.
Something's not right with this place. The equipment keeps malfunctioning. I swear the tower itself is changing. God help me, I think it's alive.
This can't be real. It has to be some kind of joke, right?
Carlos's hands trembled nervously. He switched to another tape with uncertainty. His logical mind was struggling. He found it difficult to process what he was hearing. The information on the tapes challenged his rational thoughts, leaving him confused and unsettled.
This is the final log entry. We've built something we don't understand. The tower has a presence. It's hungry and dangerous. If you're hearing this message, get out immediately. Escape while you still can.
This can't be happening. But everything I've experienced, could it all be true?
A chill ran down Carlos's spine. A sudden realization was setting in. The entity and the tower's strange actions were connected. His skepticism crumbled as the evidence mounted. Everything was falling into place, revealing a truth that Carlos could no longer deny.
Maria, are you there? I need to tell you what I found.
I'm here, Carlos. What's going on? You sound shaken.
I've discovered some old logging tapes. Maria, the things they're saying are disturbing. I think there's something seriously wrong with this tower. It might be something supernatural.
Carlos, are you sure? That doesn't sound like you. Maybe the isolation is getting to you.
I know how it sounds. But after everything I've seen, we need to take this seriously. I think I'm in real danger up here.
As Carlos spoke, the lights flickered. The control room grew dim. The air thickened around them. An unseen, evil presence filled the space. The atmosphere became tense and eerie.
Welcome, Carlos. I've been waiting for you to understand.
What are you?
I am the tower. I am your fear. And now, you're mine.
Carlos stumbled back. His heart was racing. The true horror of his situation dawned on him. The entity had revealed itself. Carlos was trapped in its mysterious realm. He now faced an unknown and terrifying reality. Carlos desperately tried to escape the tower's nightmarish reality. His attempt led him to an even more terrifying predicament. As he descended the seemingly endless staircase, the world began to change. Everything around him started to warp and twist. The tower's lower levels transformed into a grotesque parody of their former state. Carlos found himself trapped in an increasingly distorted and horrifying version of his surroundings.
This can't be happening. I was just trying to get out. How did I end up even deeper in this place? The situation had taken an unexpected turn for the worse, leaving me in disbelief and confusion about my predicament.
The walls pulsed with an unnatural, sickly light. Carlos took each step carefully. His footsteps echoed unnaturally around him. It seemed as if reality itself was unraveling. The eerie glow and distorted sounds created an unsettling atmosphere, making Carlos feel like he was walking through a world on the brink of collapse.
Keep it together, Carlos. This isn't real. It can't be real.
Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through. It cut through the chaotic noise around. The sound stopped Carlos in his tracks.
Carlos, why didn't you save me?
Anna. No. You're not here. You can't be here.
A spectral figure appeared before Carlos. It took the form of his sister Anna. She looked as he last saw her, young and vibrant, but her eyes were accusing. They bore into his soul. The ghostly vision of Anna stood there, a painful reminder of the past. Carlos felt the weight of her gaze, piercing through him with unspoken judgment.
You let me fall, Carlos. You were supposed to protect me.
I tried. God, Anna, I tried so hard. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Carlos's voice cracked with emotion. The guilt he had carried for years was rising to the surface. He reached out towards Anna's ghostly figure. His hand passed through her form like smoke.
Yes, Carlos. Feel the guilt. Let it consume you.
The entity's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It was a sinister whisper. The sound echoed in Carlos's mind, creating an eerie atmosphere.
No, this isn't real. Anna, I know you're not really here. This is just another trick.
Carlos clenched his fists, fighting against overwhelming emotions. These feelings threatened to paralyze him. He forced himself to take a step forward. Then he took another step, pushing past his sister's ghostly image.
Don't leave me again, Carlos. Please.
I'm sorry, Anna. I have to keep going. I have to face this.
As Carlos continued his descent, the environment shifted again. The walls began to close in around him. A narrow, confining passage formed, seeming alive. It appeared to breathe and pulse with an evil presence. The tunnel created a sense of suffocation, its movements suggesting a sinister force at work.
Focus, Carlos. Remember your training. Breathe, assess, act.
Carlos's rational mind struggled to make sense of his surroundings. He clung to his technical expertise as a lifeline. This expertise was his anchor in a sea of irrationality.
Your logic cannot save you here, Carlos. Embrace the fear. Let it guide you to me.
Shut up. I won't let you win. I won't let you use my sister against me.
With each step, Carlos felt a mix of emotions. Terror and determination grew within him. He realized he must overcome this nightmare. To do so, he would have to confront the entity. But that wasn't all he needed to face. Carlos also had to confront his own deep fears and guilt.
I don't know what you are or why you're doing this, but I'm going to find a way to stop you. I'm doing this for Anna. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for everyone you've tormented in this cursed tower.
Carlos pressed on as the distortions around him intensified. Reality itself seemed to fold and unfold. It revealed glimpses of unreal shapes and echoes of past horrors. With each strange vision he overcame, Carlos felt stronger. A growing sense of resolve filled him.
I'm coming for you, whatever you are. And I'm not afraid anymore.
Carlos climbed higher up the tower. The structure began to change in unnatural ways. Metal beams twisted like ribbons. The air shimmered with a strange energy. Suddenly, Carlos found himself in a mirrored version of the tower. Everything seemed familiar, yet oddly wrong.
What the hell is going on? This can't be real.
Carlos's voice echoed strangely in the space. It seemed to bounce off surfaces that shouldn't exist. As he turned a corner, he froze in shock. Carlos came face to face with an impossible sight. He was looking at himself, and his blood ran cold.
What are you?
The other Carlos smiled. His smile was twisted and malevolent. Carlos had never seen such an expression on his own face before. It was a strange and unsettling sight for him to witness.
We are you, Carlos. The you that you've always been afraid to face.
The entity spoke through the look-alike. Its voice was a chilling mix. It sounded partly like Carlos's own voice, but there was also something inhuman about it. The combination created an unsettling effect, blending the familiar with the unknown.
No, this isn't real. It's just another trick, another hallucination.
Is it? Or are we the truth you've been running from since Anna died?
Carlos felt a surge of guilt and pain at the mention of his sister's name. These emotions washed over him intensely. The other Carlos's eyes seemed to glow with a predatory light. He appeared to be feeding on Carlos's emotional turmoil.
Leave Anna out of this. She has nothing to do with what's happening here.
Oh, she has everything to do with it. Your guilt, fear, and inability to trust yourself are connected. It's all because of what happened to her. Now you become the perfect vessel for us.
The doppelganger began to approach Carlos. Its movements were jerky and unnatural. Carlos backed away in fear. His heart was pounding in his chest.
Stay back. I'm not afraid of you.
But you are, Carlos. You're terrified. You fear us, yourself, and the truth. Why else would you isolate yourself in places like this? Why do you push everyone away?
Carlos's back hit an unexpected wall. He found himself trapped in a strange situation. Now he was forced to confront a twisted version of himself. This altered self spoke uncomfortable truths. The revelation left Carlos feeling cornered, both physically and emotionally.
I don't...
Admit it, Carlos. You've been punishing yourself all these years. But we can end that pain. Join us and become one with the tower. You'll never have to feel guilty again.
For a moment, Carlos felt tempted. The promise of release from his guilt was alluring. He stared into the eyes of his exact double. In them he saw an emptiness. Behind that emptiness lay an evil intent. It sought to destroy him completely.
You're correct. I have been running. But not anymore. Anna's death wasn't my fault. I won't let you use her memory to control me.
As Carlos spoke these words, he felt something shift within him. The doppelganger's smile faltered. The mirrored world around them began to flicker.
You can't resist us forever, Carlos. We are the tower, we are your fears, we are eternal.
Maybe. But I'm not alone, and I'm not giving up. I'll find a way to stop you, whatever you are.
A deafening screech of metal filled the air. The mirrored world shattered around them. Carlos found himself back on the real tower. He was gasping for breath. Yet, a newfound determination shone in his eyes.
Maria, are you there? I think I just learned something important. It's about this entity, and it's also about myself.
Carlos? Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for hours. What happened? Are you okay?
Carlos began to explain his experience to Maria. He realized that facing his exact double had given him more than just terror. It had given him insight into the creature's essence and his own strength. The climb ahead would still be dangerous, but now he had a spark of hope to guide him forward. The radio tower loomed above Carlos. Its metal frame twisted impossibly against the darkening sky. As Carlos climbed higher, the air grew thin. The atmosphere became charged with an unnatural energy. Suddenly, his radio crackled to life.
Carlos? Carlos, do you copy? I'm losing your signal.
Maria? I'm here. Can you hear me?
Carlos frantically adjusted his radio. The static only grew louder. Maria's voice faded away. It disappeared into a jumble of static sounds.
No. Come on, work.
The static disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. Carlos found himself surrounded by an oppressive silence. He felt the weight of his isolation pressing down on him. This feeling was even heavier than the tool belt at his waist.
This isn't right. None of this is right.
Carlos's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of normality. The tower structure seemed to pulse and breathe. It was defying all laws of physics. In that moment, a chilling realization washed over Carlos. The impossible was happening before his eyes.
It's feeding off me. My fear, my loneliness. Just like...
Images of his sister Anna flashed through his mind. He had carried guilt for many years. This guilt now rose up inside him. It threatened to overwhelm him completely. The memories and emotions surged, bringing his long-buried feelings to the forefront of his consciousness.
No. I won't let it happen again. I couldn't save you, Anna. But I can face this. I have to.
Carlos's hands were trembling. He unclipped his safety harness. Taking a deep breath, Carlos prepared himself. He steeled his nerves for what lay ahead.
All right, you bastard. You want me? Come and get me.
The metal beneath his feet began to vibrate. It was as if the tower responded to his presence. The heart of the structure awaited, pulsing with evil energy. Carlos took his first step towards it. He was leaving behind the last traces of his rational world.
Welcome, Carlos. We've been waiting for you.
The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It was a whisper that cut through the silence like a knife. Carlos clenched his fists, ready to confront the entity. This entity had been toying with him all along.
Show yourself. Let's end this.
Carlos stepped into the heart of the tower. The world around him began to distort and change. He knew that what happened next was crucial. It would determine not just his fate, but perhaps others too. With a final thought of Anna, Carlos prepared himself. He braced himself for what lay ahead. Before we continue, let's take a moment to reflect. What are your thoughts on this story? What would you like to hear next? Please share your ideas in the comments. The wind howled through the tower's steel frame. Carlos began his ascent up the towering structure. The top loomed above him, fading from view. It disappeared into an unnatural mist. This strange fog seemed to move and throb with evil power.
Okay, Carlos, you can do this. One step at a time. Just like any other climb.
Carlos gripped the cold metal rungs. His knuckles were white with determination. As he climbed higher, the air grew thin. The atmosphere became charged with strange energy. This unusual sensation made his skin crawl.
What the hell is that noise?
Suddenly, the radio at his belt crackled to life. The sound startled him. Maria's voice came through the radio. Her voice was distorted and barely audible.
Carlos? Carlos, can you hear me? Your vitals are spiking. What's happening up there?
Maria, I'm okay. The tower, it's different up here. Something's not right.
Different how? Carlos, you're not making sense. Maybe you should come down and we can.
The radio cut out abruptly. Carlos was left in eerie silence. He looked down, expecting to see the tower base far below. Instead, he saw only swirling darkness. It seemed as if the lower half of the structure had vanished completely.
No. This isn't possible. Get it together, Carlos.
Carlos fought back panic. He forced himself to focus on his training. Carlos reached for his tool belt. He fumbled for his signal meter. The situation was tense, but Carlos relied on his preparation to guide his actions.
If I can just get a reading, maybe I can figure out what's causing these anomalies.
He activated the device. It emitted a piercing shriek. The sound echoed throughout the tower. The surrounding mist pulsed angrily in response. This eerie reaction created a tense atmosphere within the structure.
You cannot escape, Carlos. Your fear feeds me. Your sister couldn't run. Neither can you.
The entity's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It was a chilling whisper that cut through the howling wind. Carlos's breath caught in his throat. The mention of his sister sent a jolt of anguish through him.
No! You're not real. This is just another trick, another trap. I won't let you win.
Carlos continued his climb with renewed determination. He forced himself to recall the information he had gathered. He remembered the patterns he had observed in the entity's behavior. Each rung he grasped felt like a small victory. It was a fight against the approaching insanity that threatened to overwhelm him.
Think, Carlos. Use your skills. There's always a logical explanation, always a solution.
As Carlos ascended, the tower seemed to warp and twist strangely. Rungs twisted away from his grasp. Platforms moved as if they were alive. Yet Carlos pressed on, determined. His technical mind worked tirelessly. He analyzed and adapted to each new challenge the tower presented.
Something might affect the tower's structure. I could potentially use that to my advantage. The key is the resonance frequency. That's the solution I've been looking for.
A plan began to form in Carlos's mind. He reached for his toolkit once more. This time, he acted with purpose rather than desperation. Carlos prepared to put his theory to the test. As he did so, a haunting memory of his sister's voice echoed in his thoughts.
Trust yourself, Carlos. You're stronger than you know.
I won't let you down this time, Anna. I promise.
Carlos faced the nightmarish ascent with newfound resolve. The entity's traps and illusions still loomed ahead. But now Carlos had a powerful weapon, his own mind. Grief had sharpened his thoughts, and years of problem-solving had honed them. The climb to the tower's peak would test every bit of his skill and courage. For the first time since this ordeal began, Carlos felt a glimmer of hope. Carlos's head spun as he stepped into the tower's top floor. Instead of finding the highest point, he entered a huge, spinning emptiness. In this space, pieces of reality seemed to float and crash into each other. The air crackled with a strange, unearthly energy. Carlos heard faint echoes of familiar voices in the distance.
What is this place? This can't be real.
Carlos took a cautious step forward. A figure began to appear from the swirling mists. His heart nearly stopped. He recognized the familiar outline of the person emerging from the fog.
Anna? Is that you?
Carlos, my brother. You've carried this weight for so long.
The ghostly form of Ana Mendez appeared before Carlos. Her eyes conveyed a mix of sorrow and empathy. Carlos felt his guilt growing, almost overwhelming him.
Anna, I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have protected you.
It wasn't your fault, Carlos. You need to let go of this burden.
As Ana spoke, ethereal figures began to appear. They materialized around Ana and Carlos. Carlos recognized some of these figures. They were workers who had vanished at the tower. These disappearances had occurred over the years.
We've all been trapped here, Carlos. Caught between worlds by the entity that haunts this place.
Who are you? What's happening to me?
I was once like you. I came here as a technician to fix the tower. But there's an entity here. It feeds on our fear and guilt. This entity has been using us. It's been trapping us here.
Carlos's mind reeled as he tried to process the scene before him. What he saw seemed impossible. The logical part of his brain fought against accepting it. But deep down, Carlos knew this was real.
Carlos, you have a chance to end this. Your actions could free us all. But you must face your fears. You need to confront your past.
I don't know if I can. Anna, I've been so lost without you.
You're stronger than you know, little brother. You always have been. It's time to trust yourself.
As Ana spoke, Carlos felt a warmth spreading through his chest. This warmth brought a strength he hadn't felt in years. The other spirits nodded encouragingly.
The entity is powerful, but it's not invincible. Your skepticism is a powerful weapon. Your ability to question reality is another tool. These are the weapons you can use against the entity.
But how? How do I fight something I can barely understand?
Carlos, accept that some things are beyond your understanding. Trust your instincts. Face your deepest fears. These steps will help you navigate the unknown and grow stronger in the process.
The void around them began to pulse and shift. The entity's presence was growing stronger. Meanwhile, the spirits started to fade away.
We can't stay much longer. Remember, Carlos, you're not alone. We're with you.
I love you, Carlos. I always have, and I always will. Now go, face the entity and free us all.
Anna, wait, don't go.
The spirits had vanished. Carlos was left alone in the changing emptiness. He no longer felt the crushing weight of guilt and doubt. For the first time in years, Carlos experienced a new feeling. He now had a sense of purpose and clarity.
I won't let you down, Anna. I won't let any of you down.
Carlos felt a renewed determination. He prepared himself mentally for the confrontation ahead. The entity's presence loomed ominously. But now, Carlos was ready to face it. He would fight not just for himself, but for all those trapped by its evil.
All right, you bastard. Let's end this.
Carlos's heart pounded as he reached the tower's peak. His breath came in ragged gasps. The world around him twisted and warped. Reality bent at the whims of an evil force. Storm clouds swirled overhead. They crackled with strange, unnatural power.
This can't be real. What are you?
The entity's form shimmered and shifted. It was a swirling, dark shape. The darkness seemed to swallow up all the light around it. When the entity spoke, its voice echoed strangely. The sound came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
I am your fear, Carlos, your guilt, your despair. I am the void that consumes all.
No, I won't let you break me. I've come too far.
Carlos gripped his tools tightly. His knuckles were white with determination. The entity lashed out violently. Dark, whip-like tendrils cut through the air. Carlos stumbled, narrowly avoiding the attack. His mind raced with urgency. He recalled everything he had learned about the tower. The tower's history flooded his thoughts.
The previous technician, the logs, this has happened before, hasn't it?
Many have tried. All have failed. You will join them, Carlos, just like your sister.
The mention of his sister affected Carlos deeply. A jolt of pain shot through his heart. For a brief moment, he saw Anna's face. Her image appeared in the swirling darkness.
Anna, I'm sorry, I couldn't save you then, but I won't let your memory be used against me now.
Carlos felt a renewed sense of determination. He reached for his radio with hope. Static crackled through the device. Then, a faint voice broke through.
Carlos, can you hear me? What's happening up there?
Maria, I need you to listen carefully. There's an entity that feeds on fear and isolation. I need you to keep talking to me. Can you do that no matter what happens?
I don't understand, but yes, I'm here. I won't leave you, Carlos.
The entity roared in fury. The tower shook beneath Carlos's feet. Maria's voice whispered in his ear. With her support, Carlos felt a surge of strength.
You don't control me anymore. I have faced my guilt. I've learned to trust my instincts. I am not alone.
Carlos began to move with newfound agility. He dodged the enemy's attacks skillfully. Carlos worked his way towards the tower's main transmitter. An idea was forming in his mind as he approached.
Foolish human, you cannot defeat what you do not understand.
Maybe not, but I understand radio waves, and I understand that every signal can be disrupted.
Carlos reached the transmitter with a burst of speed. His hands moved swiftly across the controls. He adjusted frequencies and amplified power.
Maria, I need you to boost the signal from your end. Maximum power.
Roger that, Carlos. Whatever you're doing, I hope it works.
The air crackled with energy. The tower's full broadcasting power surged. The entity writhed and screamed. Its form began to dissipate. The atmosphere buzzed with intense power as the mysterious being struggled against the overwhelming force.
No! This cannot be. I am eternal.
Nothing lasts forever. Especially not fear.
The entity let out a final, ear-splitting cry. It then exploded, vanishing into thin air. Above, the strange storm began to clear. A star-filled sky was revealed in its place.
It's over. Maria, do you copy? We did it.
Carlos, thank God. Are you all right? What happened up there?
It's a long story, but I think I'm finally free.
The first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. Carlos looked out over the landscape. He felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Carlos had faced his deepest fears. He came out winning, not just over the mysterious threat. He also conquered the guilt that had haunted him for so long. His victory was complete, both over external challenges and internal struggles.
Anna, I hope you can rest easy now, and so can I.
Carlos took a deep breath. He began his descent. He was ready to face the challenges ahead. Carlos felt newfound strength and clarity. The air around the tower crackled with residual energy. The unnatural storm had just subsided. Carlos found himself sprawled on the metal grating. He was at the tower's highest platform. His body ached and his mind reeled. The entity's presence had vanished. It left behind an eerie silence. This silence felt almost as oppressive as the entity's sinister force.
Is it over?
Carlos's voice was barely a whisper. It was hoarse from screaming. He slowly pushed himself up. Every movement sent waves of intense pain through his battered body. His eyes darted around. He searched for any sign of the mysterious entity or its terrifying visions.
Maria? Maria, can you hear me?
Carlos? Oh, thank God! We lost contact for hours. What happened up there?
Maria's voice came through the radio. Her tone was filled with both relief and concern. Carlos struggled to handle the radio. His hands were shaking uncontrollably.
I'm struggling to find the right words. I think the entity is gone now. Maria, I saw and experienced strange things. I'm no longer sure what was real. The events have left me questioning everything I thought I knew.
Just focus on getting down safely, Carlos. We're sending a team to meet you at the base. Are you injured?
Nothing serious, I think. But Maria, the tower, it's changed. I'm not sure it's safe anymore.
Carlos looked around the tower. He noticed subtle changes in its structure. The once familiar environment now felt different. It seemed alien and unpredictable to him.
What do you mean changed? Carlos, you're not making sense.
I know it sounds crazy, but after what I've been through, you need to listen. Tell the team to be careful. I don't think this is over.
Carlos began his descent. Memories of the confrontation came rushing through his mind. The entity had taken the form of his sister, Anna. It forced him to relive her death. Carlos had to confront his deepest fears.
Anna, I'm sorry. I hope you can rest now.
Tears filled Carlos's eyes. He spoke to the empty air. Guilt had weighed on him for years. Now it felt different. The guilt wasn't gone, but transformed. Carlos experienced a shift in his long-standing emotional burden.
Carlos? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Maria, I have so much to tell you when I arrive. There's a lot I need to share with everyone. But I'm worried no one will believe me.
We'll figure it out together, okay? Just keep moving. We're all waiting for you.
Carlos continued his slow descent down the tower. He couldn't shake the feeling that a deep change had occurred. This transformation was not just in the tower, but in himself as well. The mysterious presence might be gone, but its effects still lingered. Carlos was left forever altered and unsure about what the future held.
Something mysterious happened up there. Whatever that thing was, it's not over yet. I can sense it deeply. The tower will never be the same, and neither will I.
Carlos felt the weight of his experience with each step down. The confrontation had left him scarred, both physically and mentally. Yet, it had also given him a newfound strength. As the base of the tower came into view, Carlos prepared himself. He faced challenges ahead, explaining the mysterious events and protecting others. The tower held a dark secret he now had to guard. Carlos had to learn to live with his new knowledge. He now understood what truly hid in the world's shadows. The helicopter descended towards the base station. Carlos felt a strange combination of relief and persistent fear. The familiar sight of the squat concrete building stood out in the wilderness. It should have been comforting. But after his ordeal, Carlos couldn't shake the feeling that nothing was truly safe anymore.
It's over. I'm back. I'm safe now. Right?
Carlos spoke quietly. His hands were trembling. He unbuckled his safety harness. The helicopter door slid open. Carlos saw a familiar figure rushing towards him.
Carlos! Oh my God, you're alive!
Maria's voice cracked with emotion. She approached slowly. Her professional composure was breaking. This was all because of Carlos's unexpected return. The sight of him had completely changed her demeanor.
Maria, I made it.
Carlos stumbled out of the helicopter. His legs were weak from exhaustion and lingering fear. Maria caught him as he emerged. She supported his weight carefully. Together they moved towards the base station.
Easy there, let's get you inside. The authorities have many questions, but those can wait for now. You need to rest.
Carlos and his companions entered the building. A wave of normalcy hit Carlos. It felt almost as unsettling as the tower's eerie atmosphere. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Computers hummed in the background. The smell of coffee wafted through the air. Everything seemed impossibly ordinary after his recent experiences. The contrast between this mundane environment and what he'd just been through was jarring.
Maria, I don't know how to explain what happened up there. You probably won't believe me.
Carlos, I heard things over the radio. These things are difficult for me to explain. I may not understand everything that happened, but I know you went through hell up there.
Maria's words were comforting to Carlos. However, he could see doubt and confusion in her eyes. Carlos knew explaining his full experience would be challenging. He felt it would be nearly impossible to convey everything.
Mr. Mendez? I'm Agent Ramirez, leader of the emergency response team. We need to debrief you about the incident. The incident occurred at the tower.
Incident? That's not even close to describing what happened.
Carlos's voice trembled with a mix of emotions. He felt both frustrated and fearful. Carlos could sense the agent's skepticism. The agent's doubt was clear, making Carlos even more uneasy.
We understand you've been through a traumatic experience, Mr. Mendez. We need a clear account of the events. Please provide us with factual information.
Factual? You want facts? The laws of physics broke down up there. Reality itself warped around me. How do I put that in a report?
The agent's expression hardened. He clearly interpreted Carlos's words as ramblings. These seemed to be from a man pushed to his mental limits. The agent's reaction suggested he viewed Carlos as someone who had become mentally overwhelmed, rather than as a source of credible information.
Perhaps we could continue this tomorrow? Carlos needs medical attention and rest.
Maria's intervention was a lifeline for Carlos. He accepted her help gratefully, feeling relieved. Carlos was led to a small infirmary for treatment. Despite this, He felt certain that his ordeal wasn't over yet. The agent's eyes showed clear disbelief at Carlos's story. This reaction convinced Carlos that his troubles were only just beginning.
Did you hear that?
Hear what, Carlos?
The look of concern on Maria's face deepened. Carlos frantically searched the room. For a moment he thought he heard the same eerie static from the tower. The sound faded as quickly as it came. Carlos wondered if his mind was playing tricks on him. Or perhaps something far worse had followed him down from the tower. The story is over. Thank you for listening. Please write a comment about the story. Tell me what you think. I will read all your comments. I'll reply to each of you personally. See you next time.